Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, and this is the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast Extra Edition. I'm here with Tom Vanderford, and we're going to talk a little bit Ole Miss football today. How you doing, Tommy?
Doing great, man.
Man, this is the last Sunday that we're going to have with no college football storylines for the foreseeable future because camp starts the middle of next week.
Isn't that wonderful?
Oh, it is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And it got me to thinking, since we're just like 3 days away from the start of camp, what do we think the storylines leading into fall camp are going to be this year? Because they're going to try and make them the quarterback situation, but I think Jackson Dart is clearly in the lead there. So what else?
The defense, man. It's all about the defense. The defense usually in the beginning of camp has an easier time acclimating than the offense in the very beginning. But I am very keen to the fact that this team's going to go as far as the defense will take them. So anything that I see that's a positive on the defense, and they're not going to share a lot, obviously. Why would they? But I think we'll get little snippets of information about the defense. But my storyline going in is it's all about the defense. This team will go as far as the defense will take them.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do this year is whenever I'm watching these player interviews and they give something away, which it does happen about once in practice, they'll give something away that is actually useful. I'm just going to clip that up and put it in my show for the next day because that's the most important part about the press conference. It's not reporters that are just in love with the sound of their own voice. It's an actual genuine answer. So I think I'm going to do that. But the one thing that I'm looking at storylines is I am team 12 personnel. And that's one back and two tight ends for those who don't know what 12 personnel is. And I think Michael Trigg needs to play some slot. And I think the offense will be so much better if that gets utilized probably 50% of the time.
I think so as well. I think we saw last year that Trigg could make some wonderful plays, but, he wasn't the blocking tight end that we needed in our system. Now we've got Priestcorn that can do both. He can block and he's a good catcher. And that allows us to move Trigg out to the slot. And what a target. The kid's huge. And he has a past with Jackson Dart, obviously. And he is someone that could exploit the middle of the field. And those things were missing last year. We didn't really exploit the middle of the field, but when you've got a Trigg who's a big kid to start with, and he can jump up and grab that ball, and he can fight off defenders, I think that's a wonderful idea, and I hope we do a lot of 12 technique also.
Last year the middle of the field it was just broken, and we've harped on it now for heck, it might be 7 months at this point that you've heard me say over and over about the middle of the field. Mm-hmm. But Lane Kiffin listened because Zachary Franklin, Trey Harris, Caden Priestcorn, they're all middle of the field contested catch monsters. And he talked about taking outside the numbers, the running back, which is also going to take a defender out of the box to where there's going to be more room in the middle of the field. I can see how this would work. I'm getting pretty excited about this offense, and it's almost at the point where they just need to do it, honestly.
I agree. And, in years past, we had to slow our offense down because of our depth on defense. I don't necessarily know if we have to slow it down as much as we have in years past, because we've got depth on defense. We've got, interchangeable pieces on defense. It'll be interesting to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, people need to understand what's going on. What I'm about to tell you is absolutely factual. You can look it up, you can do the research yourself. But we have a two deep at defensive line that has played a ton of football, including 3 defensive ends that are interchangeable from the strong side to the weak side. That's going to be very good. The interior defensive line, JJ Begues, Joshua Harris, Stephon Wynn, Jamon Gordon, those guys, lots of football that's been played there as well. That's a 2 deep across the front. There's a 2 deep plus at linebacker. So it's 2 linebackers at 2 deep and plus Centarian Perkins, who is going to fit in somewhere. And then if you look at the back of the defense, and this is the area that I think that Ole Miss could be the most vulnerable defensively, but they have 3 deep of guys that played college football at the FBS level last year. 3 deep. So I don't know if depth is our problem. We need a couple of those guys to hit. We need a couple of stars to emerge. And if that happens, I think we're just going to be okay, Tommy.
Well, I agree. I agree. We've got a lot of new faces at corner. We've got new faces at safety, but we've got talent. We've got Prince, we got Gaddy, we got Walton, we got all kinds of proven cornerbacks. So it just goes on and on. Hopefully, even some of those guys can play safety. We've got 2 really good safeties returning from last year, and then we've got Saunders as well. We've got Grove, who was a redshirt freshman last year. So Groves, but we've got a lot of talent. Some of it's unproven, but at least at corner, I feel really good at corner.
Yeah, and one thing that's really interesting to me, and maybe I can get your opinion on it, is we run a hybrid 3-3-5/4-2-5 defense, and the difference between 3-3-5 and 4-2-5 is what they're going to be doing with Cedric Johnson on any given play. That's just the truth about this defense. But right. It also has a hybrid in the secondary. And I'm of the person that hybrid, you lean towards linebacker because this is a line of scrimmage league. And I'm like, okay, Ladarius Tennyson, Isheem Young would be perfect there. But if you look at the fact that you're trying to find people that can cover these receivers when you're trying to outnumber receivers, maybe somebody like Deshaun Gaddy or a slot corner fits in there is a little bit better fit. Depends on how physical they are. Maybe you move a John Saunders down there to where he can get physical, or Zamari Walton. Something like that would be an interesting situation. I just don't know if it's going to be third corner or a hybrid safety linebacker.
Yeah, I don't either, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. We've got so many pieces that are coming in that were brought in to fill specific spots. And I really I haven't seen this kind of depth, at least in the front, 7, if you want to call it the front 7, in years, and I haven't seen this depth at corner in ages either. So something tells me they'll work the safety issue out, and we'll have a really good. I think we'll have a really good defense. Now, I'm not saying we're going to be, top 3 in the SEC, but I think we can hit top 25 to top 30 nationally with these kids and the coaching staff.
Yeah, and they are the key.
Yes.
To this season. This Ole Miss football team will go as far as the defense takes them.
I completely agree.
So the Manning Center has been renovated and is open. They started off with Juice Fest over the weekend, lots of upgrades happening. And this is important to me because I've talked about NIL since the very beginning. The very first show that this channel did on YouTube, I talked about NIL, and specifically how NIL was going to take all the oxygen out of the room and take out all the money that was earmarked elsewhere. So it was important that we got this capital campaign and done as much as possible. So because facilities, it's still going to be a little bit important, but they were probably smart to put the stadium renovation on the back burner. From what the pictures I've seen, it's only going to improve, but the Manning Center, it looks really nice. They did a good job decorating.
Yeah, from what pictures I've seen, that's true, and I don't think people understand how much time the players spend in that area. It's just not a practice facility. It's a hanging out place. It's an eating place. It's everything. It's a game playing place. They just it's a good place for them to hang out.
Yeah.
And, that's a selling point when you're recruiting as well. How nice is the indoor practice facility, or how nice are the facilities? So I'm glad we got that done. I'm like you. I don't see anything being done to the football stadium in the near future. I think that money has to be diverted to NIL until the NIL rules change, which there aren't really any rules now. But we're doing a good job at self-governing. We've got a good collective. But we're gonna. I was telling somebody at work today about this. This is how I see it. The blue blood programs, they're going to grab players like Igbinosun and Malone. They're going to, and we are going to have to play money ball and grab players like Gaddy and others. And the programs that are really going to suffer are going to be those Sun Belt and Conference USA type programs. And they have to do something. I don't know what the answer is, salary caps or whatever you want to call it, but they've got to do something.
Yeah, and it will be very interesting because you get, like you said, Ohio State can come in and probably take a player or two off Ole Miss's roster nearly every year if they want to do it. It's just the way it works. But you're right. Ole Miss has to play a money ball type system, which the flip side of that is sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not. And it's not going to be something where you can have sustained success. I'm not saying we're going to be a yo-yo team to where 1 year we're 10-2 and the next year we're 2-10. I don't think it's going to swing that much, but a situation like last year is absolutely possible to where you can have a situation at the end of the year where it just doesn't quite work out. The middle of the field's a little bit of a problem. If you hit, you have a chance to win the SEC West because the way they're recruiting talent-wise, it's absolutely off the chart. But if you don't and it doesn't hit, you do have a chance to be a middling team. And that's just Ole Miss's lot in life at the moment.
Well, that's true. And also, it's not just talent, it's fit. I go back to some things that Lane Kiffin said in the past. They do their, if you want to call it a background check, they do a background check on these kids. They want to find out if the kids are going to fit. Do the kids always fit? No. But they do their due diligence to try and make sure that the kids what they need and the kid's going to be a fit for their program.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And thanks everybody for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, more likely Ole Miss every day. It's a lifestyle. All these interviews over the weekend, it's going to change a little bit as we get into football season and work, but I wanted to do this so everybody has stuff on the weekend that is pretty interesting. Don't forget to join our Discord server. That bad boy was bumping today. Yep. And The more people that gets on it, the better it's going to be. It's going to be a lot of fun. Remember, after September, it's just essentially going to become a private message board. So if you want to have open invite membership, you can right now. But as September 1st gets here, as Labor Day weekend gets here, that is not going to be an option because we do want to prevent trolls from getting into the message boards to make this as fun as humanly possible. Anyway, Tommy, thank you very much for stopping by and thank you for doing this, man.
Hey, no problem, man. I love it. Look forward to it. Hotty toddy, everybody.
Hotty toddy.